shit, trial by fire. Right? Or baptism.
That
All right, we're all recording now.
You can see it's all
Thank you. I didn't mean to hit you. It's okay. It's okay.
Pass them off, Becky.
It's a first lesson.
Well, I'm getting a lot of first lessons in the last couple of days.
That cracked me up.
Someone, I don't know if they're setting me up, told me to say hello to you.
They're probably setting up. Where did you meet Ladouce?
I worked with him. I did. Yeah. But I didn't know that term of endearment until today.
Al Ladouce.
Because he was second ranking, so that's how he said that's how the name came in. Yeah, okay.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't even know him by his real name.
John McQuinn. There you go.
Everybody knew him as Ladouce.
Ladouce. He says, well, anybody wonder how I got that name? I said, well, law is French. Card game, like, but then there was the premiere, apparently. We got to get him a part-time job.
I had like 10 minutes earlier. So,
We were making changes to this till what? 15 minutes ago. Busy day. Yeah. How'd it go?
Good. Say in another week we'll have something they can go to their membership and talk to them.
I think there'd be a signal.
Yes. Yeah, I will.
It could be anybody's for you. I mean,
thank you.
You out of breath?
No, feel good.
Great.
but then again, we don't know numbers anymore.
Thank you.
Nice.
Yes, it happens once in a while.
I have engineering, so
I don't know, actually.
I know it'll change.
I had a really bad cold.
I got my new list back over there. Yes.
Oh, I put your steno pad back on your desk.
Oh, I guess I won't be charged for $1.
We don't have it.
Can I borrow your pen?
I do see. And the better. We went down, we went up, and now we're way up, right? Or way down, I should say.
We were down, up, and then down.
Yep.
You're not on here.
So I mean, that's pretty good.
20 to 25 to...
It's going to be
I know.
65 up, but instead it's 54.
Well, relax.
54, 5, 74.
Down.
Well, every little bit helps. I mean, I thought that was a good idea.
In cuts or in trimmings?
Yeah.
Trimmings, cuts.
Well, he's your liaison. Who's your liaison now?
As you say, we get to midnight on Saturday. That's what you told me.
That's what she's.
Yeah. It's not your job to formulate the resolution. No, I know, but so that just didn't happen. I think it's just an oversight, so it can be done. Yeah. Yeah.
We need to discuss it.
I'll ask Peter.
Yes, and they're still gonna have show.
Remember Sylvia's increases in
Oh!
Yes. How you doing?
We just had retirees.
I know. I was totally delayed and I couldn't make it, but I heard it was really well.
Sylvia?
Very productive.
Clarification involving Plattsburgh Basin versus City.
Yeah, well, that, I'll just leave that to you. You don't have to
Do we have
explain
anything else?
But that wasn't included.
Okay.
Battle of Plattsburgh.
See, I think that'll be something
As far as the decision.
Yeah, no, but that's where the confusion was. Is that a one?
I was replying to that was right.
Is that an event or is it?
It was
If the weekly thing.
It's weekly, but it's one singular
Are you talking about downtown, right? Yeah, it was an umbrella event.
Start the meeting, go into executive, and then come back, finish the session.
What?
So rather
Do any roll call?
It's
Well, just like one, then not
Apple and going into work session.
Right. That's because Simon requested that in order to. Yeah. Yeah.
I missed the opportunity.
Yeah.
Welcome, everybody. At the first part of this meeting, this will be a work session in anticipation of our regular session that hopefully begins somewhere around 5:30. Unfortunately, at this time, we'll have to go into an executive session to discuss the matter of litigation, Plattsburgh Boat Basin versus the city of Plattsburgh. So please excuse us for a few moments and we'll be back.
make a motion.
Oh, do we need a motion? Motion by Councilor Casper, second by Councilor Wenzel. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. We'll get back as soon as we can.
Yeah, Oh, I can definitely give her like every day
I told her to us that she didn't realize I got last year. She didn't realize that.
Oh, I see.
I just told her that I thought
Yeah, I didn't wait to be that way, but I would love to give her those days.
so that's what I said. I told her that today. And she was thinking that. So she's like, oh, I see her enough. Well, you should come.
I have a great name. I've already got my brain that I can tell her. Okay, I'll email her. She's very good. Yeah, I think she's good. You're in the
Coming from Margator to she's getting used to me and I'm getting used to her. And I asked her, she should be just talk about those kind of ideas. You're doing two kids.
Really? I didn't know that. Yeah, you seem to like you
Listen to me and then
Now what's good? She seems nice. She's got herself together. I emailed her stuff about my event in January. It seems like great staff
I'll tell you that. I never ever see other kids. You should come in and see. So, which one you guys want to be disposed of? So we found that Don's gonna be disposed of. So, introduce yourself again. So, which class is it? So she's asking on this class. You haven't been for a while, so so I never. Were you guys supposed to visit?
Oh, you didn't tell me.
Can you talk about local issues?
We did?
Well, whatever, he said you would. But I told him I wouldn't. But I asked him.
So, for you guys, consideration.
You know, you're a veteran.
Is there anything else that in and around town you'd like to change? Are you gonna go, if you were to go into government, would you change something?
Well, because they're not my event. Or, yeah, it's not the city's Well, that's what I thought, maybe knowing this is why. Well, it's yeah, that's like that. Wow, there you
So, yeah. But yeah, he basically, I mean,
Well, that part of both sides of the street. So you know what you want to do first. Especially the he always wanted to find a way. Maybe that's why the government does.
just before that.
I'm gonna send it to you. You wanna send it to her?
Yeah. So, I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I'll try.
I told her already that I had to check with you. Wait, done.
So, first of all, you don't have to. So, go ahead and introduce yourself and how to get in. So, here with all these.
I have to talk. Can I have my key though? Can I have my fob back? And I want to take some stuff. Stop that.
Yeah, So Yeah, keep in mind, I'm sorry, I'm just kidding. I'm not recording you. I'm trying something broke.
How are you?
We haven't always been inside. We haven't always been inside. There should be a trail that goes from to the whole parking lot. You know, also we should do is futurism. Sure. No, I'm just thinking like today. Here today. I would put a dry suit on. You need a dry suit or something. I've never yeah, we should get permission just to waste those. Why not they just sit there half the time without being they're the cities. Oh my gosh. There's a trailer. If we could do that, I would race like after school. I guarantee we could find five students. There's five love it. I told him I could be the, I respond, I can just hold on. Because I don't think this kid. Yeah, I got
Oops. Sorry.
Makes sense.
I'd like to resume. At this time, we'll have completed our work session. We'll bring you up to speed on executive session in just a moment. But I'd like to call the meeting to order and a pledge of allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Reed?
Present.
Counselor Armstrong?
Here.
Counselor Kelly?
Here.
Counselor Dowdle?
Here.
Counselor Ensel?
Here.
Counselor Casper?
Here.
Counselor Kretzer?
Here.
Thank you. And minutes from the previous meeting? Executive session. At executive session, we discussed the issue of litigation of Plattsburgh Boat Basin versus City of Plattsburgh. We also made no decisions, but did discuss the matter of the assignment of the assistant or acting police chief and the matter of Hicks versus the city. No action on any items. Minutes?
Resolved in the minutes of the organizational meeting, the regular meeting of the Common Council held on January 5th, 2017, and the special meeting of the Common Council held January 10th, 2017, are approved and placed on file among the public records of the City Clerk's office.
First by Councilor Armstrong, second by Councilor Kelly. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Resolved that the payrolls of the various departments of the City of Plattsburgh for the week ending January 11th, 2017, in the amount of $126,592.73 are authorized and allowed, and the mayor and the city clerk are hereby empowered and directed to sign warrants drawn on the city chamberlain for the payment thereof.
First by Councilor Dowdle, second by Councilor Ensel. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Resolved that the reports as listed are hereby ordered received and placed on file among the public records of the city clerk's office.
Councilor Armstrong, second by Councilor Ensel. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Resolved that the bills allotted by the Common Council for the week ending January 13th, 2017, in the amount of $1,391,134.43 are authorized and allowed, and the mayor and city clerk are hereby authorized and directed to sign warrants drawn on the city chamberlain for the payment thereof.
First by Councilor Dowdle and second by Councilor Kretzer. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? At this time in the meeting, we'll ask any of the public to please address the council on issues relating to tonight's agenda. You can receive a copy of the agenda and the various appendices right outside. So please. This is only regarding issues on the agenda. Seeing none, thank you. We'll have another council. We'll have another opportunity to speak at the end of the meeting on any issue. We've moved that on our new rules for the next council.
This is about the budget.
But, okay, please, yep, certainly, thank you.
So my name is Carol Klepper. I live at 17 Couch Street. I asked the council, one of the residents asked the council before about the sweeps cleaning machine. I think it cost like $200,000 a couple of years ago when the city purchased it. I asked the council to consider the cleaning of the streets, the sidewalks, and also the front yard setback as the same issue as, or similar issue as snow removal. In other words, the sidewalks are owned by the city. The city was able to pass a zoning code that has the residents responsible as property owners to clean the sidewalks and to make sure that they're free of any snow or ice or any hazard. And I asked the city, there's two issues here. One of them is that the zoning code lacks the information for the building inspector to enforce residents to clean and maintain their front yard area, side yards relating to leaves and debris, etc. So as part of this bigger issue of cleaning the streets, which is adjacent to the front yard setback, and including the front yard setback, and including the front yard of properties, I don't understand why, or I asked the council why we can't look at, since we have 6 or 7 months before we have to really deal with this, why can't we have as part, or include as part of our zoning code, something that would address these issues where the property owners, because for myself, I own various commercial properties, residential property, I do maintain it. I ask that the council consider that the residents as property owners be encouraged to clean this area, and that if they don't clean it, the same thing would happen as the snow removal issue, where they would have city public works clean it, and then if they don't take care of it, it would be put on their tax roll. So I asked this council to consider this because I feel that this would be a large cost-saving measure in our budget, and I think that we should sell or do something with the street sweeping machine, because as a resident that's been here for over 50 years, I will tell you that I don't feel that it's very effective, and I think that there's a better way to get our streets and sidewalks and front yard setbacks cleaned and maintained on a regular basis.
So Kara, are you talking about leaf removal? Is that what you're specifically talking about?
Leaf and the sweeping of the streets and the maintaining.
But I
of the
mean,
front yard.
but if you're talking about the code enforcement, you're talking about a code that mandates that people remove leaves and debris from their front yard. Is that what you're saying?
And also,
Streets.
in addition to that, to address the front yard setback and the sidewalks and the edge of that curbing. Because right now, as I understand it, the role of the street sweeping machine is to clean the edge along the front yard setback. Am I right in that? Is that the role of, or the purpose of purchasing this machine? Is
Mike, can you answer that?
Clean the roadway, curb, along the curb line.
Right. So I think that it, and the manpower to run the machine, I think that is something that's worth looking into, to consider to add this into the zoning code. And it's true that it's not just the front yard setback, sidewalk, and curbing area. I think that the property owners, if we're trying to enhance the beautification of our city, I know that I live in the downtown core, center city, but it's throughout the city. There's issues with leaves and debris that the building inspector cannot enforce. And this would be able to include that and take care of that issue as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Karen.
Hi, my name's Ira Marvell. I live at 62 Club Road, Plattsburgh. Grew up here, came back after working for 30-some years around the country. I came here, I thought, or I think, to thank you for removing the 20-some% tax increase. And the last I saw it was down around a 5% level. And may even go lower, depending on what you do tonight. So I'm going to thank you for that. But frankly, I was you know, I don't usually come and talk about these issues, but I was quite surprised when I heard about a 20% tax increase. And along with that, a multi-million-dollar budget reserve that had been spent down. And what that says to me, as somebody who ran a statewide budget, you got a structural problem in the city budget. And I appreciate all the work and effort you're doing to kind of tackle it on this annual basis. But what I want to encourage, I think, is that as you finish this budget, you actually begin the development of a 3-year budget. You know essentially what approximately the revenues are going to be in the city of Plattsburgh over the next 3 years, and you know what your fixed costs are in the city budget. Now, there are other areas where you can actually use a process of figuring out a conservative and a moderate level of expectation on some of the other costs that you might incur in this budget. You know, it's obviously it's non-binding, but I think it will do a number of interesting things. One, for citizens in the city, you'll get a better picture of where you stand, where you're going to be 3 years from now, and are we going to be looking at severe cuts in the budgets of the city of Plattsburgh, or are we going to be looking at severe tax increases in the city of Plattsburgh? And so you can engage, I think, the public, people like myself and others that are here, in a dialogue with you and in an effort to kind of work with you around these structural problems. Mm-hmm. And I think the more that you engage people in bring their support in, that's going to be the ability to get them to create help for you in this process, and I think you're going to need it, in my opinion. So I think it also does a number of other things. I think for all the employees and the managers in the city, that once they see a broader picture, they can see where they fit into this, and they may be more inclined, I think, to kind of come to the table themselves and be able to bring their ideas about, we're going to have to change something here because we can't sustain where we are. And they come up with very good ideas, I think. So I think there's benefits both to the public in the community that will be willing to step forward in many different ways, whether it's cleaning the streets or others, but I think also your own employees, I think, will benefit greatly from seeing a picture that's laid out in a broader frame. So, thank you.
Thank you, and I actually hope we're doing this. You used the term structural, and I think it's been an education for the council in the last couple of weeks. Councilor Kelly brought that up just a couple of weeks ago. The notion of structural changes are what's going to give us that 1, 3, 5, and 10-year outlook. If we do a temporary, if we just delay a hire for a little while this year, that's going to help replenish our fund balance, but it doesn't solve that structural problem you identify. So when we dig, counselors, we need to dig deep. We need to look for those things that are going to provide savings from year in and year out. So if we kind of squeak in this year, we're not put over the tax cap again next year because of the temporary nature of the things we do. So I think that's kind of another way of saying what you were saying there.
That's exactly right.
Thanks very much.
Sir, would you mind repeating your name?
Ira Barbell.
Ira?
IRA and Barbell.
And I'm pretty sure he's recording your name because he's going to be hitting you up to help us, assist us in this process.
As much as I could, I will. You know, I mean, I'm retired now, so I'm here, I live here, I care about this place. And if there's any way that I can help and other
There
people
is.
that I know are doing
We're going to call on you, Mr. Barbell, believe me. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Part of the
Ira.
zeitgeist, I think.
Thank you.
too. Yeah, right?
You want to take another brief moment, Carol? Please.
Spirit of the times.
Carol Pepper again. This will be my last comment relating to the budget. Two things that I'm very concerned about and area residents are very concerned about is the leniency that happened with the relief that was given to two major corporations regarding property taxes. And I think that everybody in this room knows those two agencies. One of them is Burger King, and the other one was the former Broad Street Commons. As somebody that pays taxes and quite substantial taxes with the commercial properties, I make sure that it's in my budget to pay those taxes. I was appalled. I know that the city council probably tried to do its best to make sure that they were, trying to step up to the plate and pay that. But we as a city maybe need to look at, again, maybe the zoning code or something that we can have a little bit more oomph to get people to pay the property taxes. And related to that is the zombie properties and properties that are abandoned by property owners, where other property owners that have paying their taxes that are suffering from the value of their property are paying their full tax, and other property owners are walking away or just not paying the property tax. And we, as residents, are held with the burden. So I do look at the council we talked about this with Dale. I know that he did some research on zombie properties and other things related to abandoned properties where we can take care of our zoning code so that we can tighten it up and prevent property owners that are negligent from walking away or just not paying their property tax.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Seeing none, let's now move into the heart of the agenda. The next item is for the council to consider a series of amendments, and if you would like to, would you like to proceed categorically as we have in the past?
Sure.
Okay. The first item that would then be amendments to the mayor's October budget relating to the building inspector's office, totaling $6,700 of reductions and a Social Security match of $191. Moved by Councilor Dowdle and seconded by Councilor Armstrong. Discussion, please. It appears we're going to have the same sort of unanimity as we did the other day. You prepared to vote?
Yes.
All in favor, roll call, please.
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor Casper?
Yes.
Counselor Kretzer?
Yes.
Second item is, in this case, from the fire department budget totaling $65,000 with related Social Security matches of $3,060. Moved by Councilor Dowdle and seconded by Councilor Ensel. Discussion, please. Prepared to vote? Roll call, please.
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor Casper?
Yes.
Counselor Kretzer?
Yes.
Next item is from the police department, reductions of $54,574, including a reduction of payroll of, that's arising from a reduction of payroll of $73,919 and a match from Social Security of $5,655, but also an increase due to related contract services in cleaning, which I think had been broached last day as well. Motion? Moved by Councilor Dowdle and seconded by Councilor Kelly. Discussion, please.
Can we just get a clarification on, this is rather recent, almost to the minute. Because the contract services we looked at, let me see. I think we had, it's actually 22,000 was for cleaning, all right. And so 20,000 of this is going to be a, is the 20 built in from the records management software that we spoke on and the lack of the third police car, the equipment and all that's attached to that? That was 20,000. Is this an additional?
No, the record system maintenance is 26,000. There was 40,000 from a patrol car, and then the 22,000 was from contract services. I think originally there was a number of 47,000 that was taken out. That was 26,000. That was the maintenance of our record system.
And I think records management software, there was 10,000. I think that's come out of there. Is that?
No, they put that back in.
It is back in.
Yeah.
Okay. And the vehicle expenses attached to the actual cost of the vehicle, that has come out of there. Is that correct?
That was already passed.
That was a $40,000 adjustment to the vehicle line.
But there were vehicle.
From 80
46 down to 46.
Okay, but vehicle expenses aside from that?
No, all those minor adjustments that I had done this afternoon.
Right.
Reverse those because of the payroll reduction of 73,919.
Oh, they reversed
The
those.
22,000 for cleaning
Mhm.
was overstated before
By
as 47,000.
7.
So 25 has to go back because there's an academy director
Okay.
in there, pest control, drug testing, and towing
All right.
that were valid items that they were going to spend money on. So I got the number from the old chief about cleaning at 47,000. It was overstated.
Because that included all contract services. Okay. So our reduction actually went up 5,000.
Not really, no.
No.
The net reduction now is 54,000.
Right.
574.
Okay.
But the smaller adjustments before was going to actually produce an increase of 4,665.
Yes, that's 5,000. Okay.
But that was changed at the last minute.
Yes, it was. Okay. Thank you.
Late breaking news.
How many more last minutes do we have?
We get till midnight on Saturday.
There you are. Okay, thank you. All right, thanks.
Councilor Dowdle, could you summarize that for the purpose of the record? People who are watching this from at home may have missed some of that discussion because they weren't on microphone.
Well, we've had several discussions today about the police budget. I had left today at 20,000 because we were going to do 10 on record software, but because we had a number of 47,000 for contracted services, we previously thought that was for cleaning. It was not. Of that, it was 22,000. So that left 25,000 that we needed to put back in. They came up with 20 today, so we needed another 5,000 to go up again. That apparently is all off the table, from my understanding, and is being met through these most recent adjustments. That was a conversation between you and the city chamberlain.
That's right.
Okay.
Any further discussion on this item?
So the savings are $54,574, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
For an overall savings from the department of 90? 191? Okay.
Yes.
I thought. Thank you.
Further discussion? Chamberlain, would you like to comment on how much of this is structural and how much is temporary, just roughly, without having to take your calculator out?
Just these adjustments?
Of the 191,000.
Oh, from the police department. Well, the parking enforcement officer position was $49,230. So if that position remains vacant, that'll be a permanent change.
Mhm.
The $40,000 reduction in car purchases was an attempt to see if they could, the police department could get along with fewer cars, or if they could find less expensive cars. So that remains to be seen what they're going to be able to do. Because I think the average cost of one of their cars new without all the bells and whistles inside is about $26,000. Or maybe $28,000.
28.
28, I believe, sorry. The cleaning service that was 47 is now reduced by 22. That can be permanent if we have another option for cleaning service. Now the net number of the cleaning service reductions, but adding in a cleaner, is about a $20,000 total savings.
Okay.
Permanent.
Which could be permanent, yes.
Right.
Thank you.
The payroll reduction, the chief would have to comment on that because I'm not sure exactly what position might be eliminated there, if it would be permanent or just temporary on the $73,909 reduction for payroll.
33,919 of that is the difference between an officer that's retiring and his payout that was budgeted last year. And from that deducted cost of a new hire. The 40,000 is the academy. You can't start an academy before July, so those new hires are the remainder of the year would be $40,000. Does that answer the question?
So it sounds to me like roughly 75–80% may be permanent. Most of these changes are permanent, but there are some temporary reductions as well.
Sounds like. Yep.
Thank you. Any other further discussion? Prepared to vote? Roll call, please.
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor Casper?
Yes.
Counselor Kretzer?
Yes.
Passed. Are there any other items that the councilors can bring to our attention? I understand there may be one from IT. And
Actually, I just have a question for Sylvia, clerk. I know there was some discussion about fees and fees for individual events and so on. And we had passed earlier an amendment with certain fees, but I don't think that we addressed the use of electrical or possibly assessment for electrical or water use for various events.
Right, so some vendors require electric, so I had suggested possibly an additional charge of $20 if a vendor needs to hook up to our electric. And also some vendors request water to be run constantly. So I had requested that they also be charged $20. And I didn't do it for the yearly, like you and I had
Right.
a conversation back and forth, because a vendor can pay for a yearly vendor fee and can attend all of the events. But let's say somebody pays in advance for the yearly vendor fee. They may not want to hook up to our electric for one event and may need to for the next. They may have a generator for one event and something happens to that generator. So to charge them in advance for something they may not use, I would bow to the event coordinator to let me know, they are going to be using electric, and that'll be coordination between myself and Sandra as to who will be using what.
I guess I might have probably been a little ambiguous with the what I was really kind of looking at is like an event such as the Thursday night gatherings at Trinity Park, downtown Plattsburgh.
Downtown Rising.
Right, Downtown Rising. Would that be a one-time event each week, or is that considered?
Well, so that's up to you guys. Last year, you kind of gave, and the year before, gave him a break on the, I believe, and I don't want to speak for anybody, it was to see how it went. How did it go throughout the year? Was it successful? Was it not successful? And that's kind of why, in my opinion, and I could be wrong, that we gave him that break. But if he's going to request from his vendors to hook up to electric, I would request that each of those vendors, or himself, or however you're going to do it this year, yes, that be included, that they do need to pay for that. And if he's going to pay for a yearly fee and he's going to have 5 vendors that are paying for electric, then there's an additional $100. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay.
And you had projected approximately how much of an increase in revenue?
I think it's not
$500.
It's a little shy of $500.
Is that significant enough of an item to include formally?
I don't want to do it for the budget, you just want to do it in general. I think
Yeah.
it's something that really should be done.
I think it's
Okay.
a good idea as a policy statement in general, because then it gets the council away from having to consider whether you're giving a gift to these various individuals. They're applying, they're paying a fee, and they're covering their cost through that fee. And it's still relatively nominal. I don't think would be any hindrance to anybody deciding to put on an event with a reasonably small
Just kind of a
fee.
matter of principle.
But since it's not related directly, it's not significant to the budget, you could just decide this, flesh this out, develop a policy around it, and treat it at a subsequent meeting if you prefer.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other items you'd like to discuss? The IT, Do you have some numbers for that, or Brian here to speak? There it is, okay.
So, one of the things that was requested new in my budget this year was this idea of centralized procurement of PCs for the general fund departments. To that end, we have put together basically a 5-year replacement plan, which works out to about 41, 42 PCs a year, somewhere in that number. So there was $34,000 requested in my budget this year for all the other general fund departments to purchase PCs for them on a 5-year plan. I think I mentioned to you before, we're actually way behind on it. A good chunk, almost a third of our PCs will be almost 8 years. So we're a little behind the 8 ball, but and I don't recommend cutting all of it, but look at the numbers. And I think if we drop, it's $12,000, which I think is 14 machines. It won't put us too far behind, but it's going to the mayor's point, it's a temporary thing. I'm going to ask for that number again and then some next year, because I believe it's a plan we need to be on. It's one of those regular recurring purchases that we should be budgeting for every year. So we're looking at about $12,000 this year, I think we could do.
Okay.
And I might be, correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, but I think the majority of funding that goes into IT doesn't stay in IT's office. It comes in and then
Yeah, that's
goes
correct.
right
So
back out.
This chunk is right. This is entirely for everybody else. Almost everything we buy is to provide service for all the other.
So this in essence would just, like he said, do a quick Band-Aid if we want to, or not.
Councilor Quest, would you like to make that as a motion, $12,000 from IT?
I'll make the motion.
Second, Councilor Casper. Further discussion? Ready to vote? Roll call, please.
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor Casper?
Yes.
Counselor Kretzer?
Yes.
I think I saw Chamberlain Marks over there with his calculator recalculating total
Are we
for
under
us tonight.
7?
So there was an additional $12,000 reduction. Special and technical.
No.
Drum roll, please.
Anyone have a Jeopardy theme?
559, 577 are the deficit remaining.
I'm sorry, Richard, could you repeat that, please?
559, 577. Which is 5.48%. On the bottom page of this amendment, it was 5.59, so now we say 5.47,486.
Okay.
And that plus what's already in for the tax cap.
Mm-hmm. 1.48.
Everybody's holding their breath up there.
92506.
6.91,
Woo-hoo.
986.
Wow.
So with your amendments, the budget or the tax increase is now it's approximately 6.9%.
Call it 7.
Yeah.
No, I
Call
think I'll call it
6.9.
6.9.
That's what we'll call it.
Okay, fine.
Call it a pain in the neck.
He's not an elected official.
Councilor Ensel asked a question last week, what that would do to a $150,000 house. Before this last change, it meant $116.27 tax increase, so let's take a little bit off that 12,000, but call it $115. The house value is $115,000.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
And can I ask as well, sales tax revenue is, where are we?
We're still expecting 3.9 million this year and 3.9 and 30,000 next year. County hasn't changed their estimates. It's
slower than expected.
Mhm. And that will be known February, is it?
No, another week.
Oh, okay.
I'll know what the final quarter for 2016 will be, plus the accrual for December of 2016. So we'll see what the final number is, which we come.
Okay. Yep.
Currently, we're at $2,708,000 collected for property tax. Budgeted $4,008,000 for this year to $3.9 million. I believe can cause either allow us to enhance revenues outside of property taxes or reduce costs in ways, and I'm actually quite hopeful that some of them could work out well. Also in Albany, you probably saw that Plattsburgh was treated incredibly well at the State of the State address yesterday. 2 initiatives that I'm very excited about. One is a major effort at the airport, not simply in creating a larger terminal, but actually putting more manufacturing out there, especially in aviation-related enterprises, creating a transportation hub, so that can now be a hub for bus services. I think that anybody who's looking to put a hotel in at the airport on city property, which we have some property out there that could get on the tax roll, this would be a very good time to do it, because it may be too late in just a year or two if some of these things are put into place. I've been in discussions with the county to see if we could have a very regular shuttle service between the airport and the downtown, and maybe even up into the hotels and kind of doing a big loop. So I think there's a lot of things that I feel very positive about structurally. And of course, we've got the DRI, the Downtown Revitalization Initiative, which is really coming along nicely, and I think will give the downtown core a very good shot in the arm. So there's some challenges that you're obviously as a council facing this year, but there's also some very good reasons to be hopeful that the tax base, the level of assessed properties, somewhere in just over $900 million for the city of Plattsburgh, can start increasing after years of being relatively stagnant or even decreasing a little bit recently. So I'm hopeful.
Was there any discussion of aid to municipalities that has been flat for so long?
No discussion of aid, and nothing that he's mentioned in the, I should mention one other potential program that may come to us. So I mentioned the airport, and you've all read about this. Something got a little bit less attention is a plan for a walking and bicycling trail all the way from New York City to the Canadian border, which will go right through Plattsburgh, obviously, as well. But no direct mention in additional aid to municipalities, although there is a 380-page book we weren't given. I've got an electronic form, I haven't gone through in it, but I will look into that for you.
If that is the case, you know, one of the, initially when we were working on the DRI, because among the criteria were walkability and bikeability and so forth, and one of our concerns was the lack of a connection between Terry Gordon and Karen Fleury bike paths. We get stuck right in the middle of the city downtown. So I would imagine, since this is the case, creation of this bike walking path, that might factor in more strongly in the committee's, DRI committee's recommendations.
That was one of the DRI.
The DRI has changed quite a bit since you may have seen it last. There's a much more enhanced part about streetscape, and much more talk about complete streets.
Good.
And you're right, there's a lot of really interesting things to do within the city, but they don't connect all that well. Sometimes it's just as simple as drawing a line on a sidewalk and doing some small little things to make sure everybody can connect a little bit better. So I think those are things we can actually take on as initiative for the city, even in the absence of something like DRI, just because it makes sense and it's not very expensive and it adds an awful lot of value. Any other comments? Any other digging you think you can do tonight?
I just have one question. We need the capital expenditure plan to be part of the numbers in the budget resolution that I present tomorrow. So we're going to resolve what that number is going to be tonight.
Currently, the capital plan is as stated on October 7th, unless there's been any additional amendments or any amendments that the council would like to make at this time.
Well, we did get an email from Steve about the docks that we have purchased, and we need to get them here. So that would be a possible amendment. I guess I would put that on the table as an amendment. The what was the cost that what you factored in for bringing the 75, bringing the docks up, and then after going through the public input process, finding out where we're going to put them, and that would also be money that would go towards putting the docks in. So that was $75,000 capital project.
75 total, 35 to move them, and 75 total to install them if the public decided that's what they wanted to do.
Okay, so we purchased the docks. They can't stay where they are, which is not here. And you had a moving date of the 20th next week?
Originally January 20th. It is on Canal property, so I think with a phone call, we could probably get a small extension of some kind, but I have nothing to verify that right now.
Okay, but if we fund that through a capital project, then we need to pass that tonight because it would be part of this year's capital projects plan. So I guess I'm putting that as an amendment.
I guess you're going to need a second.
By
Yeah.
Councilor Casper and seconded by Councilor Kretzer. Discussion, please.
We put the cart before the horse on this project. We were told by former Mayor Kellnan and by Steve Peters, we would have some sort of plan before us to consider, and that hasn't materialized. And I can understand why, because it's been a very busy time, but I don't even know that we need to have these docks in our possession. It was really nice of someone to give them to us, but we don't have any idea what it's going to cost to set them up, run this, and maintain it on a monthly basis.
If I'm not mistaken, we actually purchased them. They weren't given to us.
No, we purchased them, but the money is going to be
Exactly.
given back to us.
But we haven't received that money yet.
Right,
So
so
we
we
have
have
purchased
spent,
them.
we have spent the money. Yeah, and we'll be reimbursed for that. You know, I agree with you, Mike. It's not clear. It's not a clear plan, and we had questions about what the oversight would be and how they would be rented and so forth. So I have questions about that too. The one, well, obviously one thing is that we purchased them, but another thing I want to say about that is that we have a beautiful marina, and primarily those slips are for larger boats. And I think that, I'm going to speak of someone who's not dead but gone, Paul O'Connell. Shout out to you, Paul. I know you're watching. Hope the volume's on. Is it? There are a lot of small boat owners. A lot. What did you quote? Over 5,000 locally?
5,530.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people who use Wilcock docks, fishing, put their boats out there. So I like the idea of a balance between what we have with the marina, where we have bigger boats and we have good traffic, of tourist traffic and Canadians. But we've also talked about having something for the rest of the community. So if we can have affordable slips and docks for our people to use here, I think that's a wise investment.
It may be, but we don't know. And we don't really have any data one way or the other to state how much money could be made, how much revenue we would gain from that, or what it would cost to operate it. So it's a shot in the dark. And in our current fiscal situation, I'm not willing to take a shot in the dark. I'd like to see some hard numbers, and then we can talk about doing this. But this is not the right time to be speculating about things. We got to know for sure what's going to happen, how it's going to impact the city finances, and lacking that hard data, I just can't see supporting this right now.
So just to clarify, are you willing to devote the $34,000 it would take to transport them?
It's 70.
Not currently, not until we have the
Okay.
data we need to make that decision.
Do you mind summarizing, Steve? And I don't know if you can make it up to the podium just so the public can hear the email, just for the benefit of the public, what your projections were.
Sure. So I'll make it very, very brief and informative. This was an opportunity presented to us
First in October by New York State Canal Corporation. We had followed up with General Electric on the docks. They were contracted to be sold to somebody else. The deal fell through on or around December 5th. Mayor Callahan and I worked through just some of the logistics. We ended up having an executive session meeting on the 15th where the contract was discussed. If anybody wanted to do it, the feedback then was positive. I'd also sent an email to all of you on the 16th after Assistant Superintendent Bissett and I went down, took a look at the docks, made sure they were okay, informed all of you that that was the case. We recommended purchasing them unless anyone had any objection. There were no objections at the time. So, and in that email and in those communications, it was stated clearly that there was going to be transportation costs, but that also we felt that would very easily overcome any of the expenses that were going to, the revenues would overcome any of those expenses. I've had 7 or 8 calls so far for people interested in putting their boats there, folks that currently trailer their boats. I've heard mention of some other people having the same types of issues. I know Sanders actually been called too. People are interested in so have you. People are interested in trying to, you know, have this resource that we've been trying to have for a long time. This has been part of the public discussion for a number of years, since 2013, as early as I can remember, where it was we're interested in putting together something for the Lake City, for the people that do in fact live here. And in fact, when the Plattsburgh City Marina was being discussed and put in, it was discussed publicly at the time that we would install that and then use those subsequent revenues over time to develop that public small boat marina as well. So it was creating something for those larger revenue items and then bringing something in. Concurrently, we found this opportunity, which was going to be a tremendous one. So we've discussed what those price points would be. We're based on the layout, which is heavily dependent on the venue, so where we put it. There's probably only 2.5 places where we could put it. There's no other public property that a small boat marina could exist at that I'm, to my knowledge, within city limits. So public property seems to be the best opportunity if our city is to have something like this. So we're looking at somewhere between $30,000 and $40,000 in general for seasonal lessees for boats like this, small boats. We would charge by the slip, not by the foot, which is a lot more fair for the small boat owner. And we would have, we discussed actually at great length in Public Works about what the maintenance requirements are. And we actually believe that we can leave these things, depending on the location, we think we can leave them, in fact, in the water without the maintenance of moving them around because of where they might be located. So a lot lighter maintenance, more accessible for the general public, perhaps in a location that could spruce up and drive economic and park development through the CFA process. There are no downsides from my perspective right now. So.
Councilor Kelly. The only thing we haven't received from you, Steve, and you promised it to us, was a written plan for this, including revenue and expenses.
Yes, sir.
And I can't really justify doing this until we see some kind of hard numbers on what is this going to cost. And here's another thing for you to consider. We paid $50,000 for a study of the bay to see where the pollution was coming from. How do we know at this point that that's not coming from boats? Have you considered that? Has anyone read that study? Have we seen that study? Has it been presented to us?
The one about the seasonal.
Yes, it was due on November 9th. Has any of you seen it? Have any of you seen it or read it? Well, there's another thing for you to consider.
That plan's not in the rec department, so I mean I can talk to environmental.
It's in the city of Plattsburgh, so we better be finding out before we put any more boats in the bay where that pollution's coming from. And before I can support this, I need to see a written plan from you. Where's the money coming from? Are you going to take it out of the rec budget?
Councilor Kelly, understand that I'm caught between 2 administrations here.
We all are.
So.
We all
so
are.
this
I know it's
This has
tough.
obviously been a little unique.
We all
a
are.
little
And in
challenging.
hindsight, Steve, I never would have voted for that if I'd
Yeah.
taken the time to think about it. But
And
one
in
thing that
hindsight,
sweetened the
I never
deal,
would've pursued
one thing that
this.
sweetened the deal was that you said we would have some sort of plan as to how this marina is going to operate and what it's going to cost.
It's been
And
made-
until I see that, I can't.
It's been made clear that it is not just my decision, that the public needs to weigh in on what type of plan that would be and how it would work.
Yeah.
That is a very clear process for me.
Yes, and that
So-
does not happen
so-
overnight.
That's correct. So for me to develop that plan unilaterally is not something I would take lightly, and I don't think that's my place. So I want to make sure that we get that set up the right way so that it can, really effectively be the people's marina, something that's
So
more
again,
effective.
we put the cart before the horse.
But we
I
have.
think Councilor
been
Ansel
taking
actually
this
has had
down.
his
I'm
hand up
sorry.
for just a moment.
One question that I actually received from a couple of residents was, they were wondering about the configuration of the docks, how they were going to be configured, because there was some concern about their
That's still to be
lake
determined.
terminal.
Could we
first? Councilor Armstrong and then Councilor Dowdle.
Okay, so, but the fact is, the cart is before the horse, and we have these docks. Now, so
Have we
that,
paid for them?
Yes, we have.
With a reimbursement.
there's a coming reimbursement. So if we don't pick them up, what happens? So, I mean, there's the
I don't know.
rub,
I don't know. Where's the written plan?
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? How are you gonna make this happen? We don't know.
Councilor Dowdle?
Could we first contact, you said there might be a little window of opportunity to leave them where they are. And I don't know whose property they're, are they in the way of someone? I mean, seasonally, I would think they'd be okay without knowing much to keep them for a while.
I think a couple weeks is what we would be looking at, not a couple months.
Okay.
And if we need a few weeks to decide, and if
Right.
we can, pull together a public meeting, Councilor Kelly, about how and where and what might be the best place for this, I think that would be the right way to develop the plan that you're speaking of. We can develop price points all up and down as much as we want, but we also need to make sure that it's not just strictly a revenue generating thing, that it's also a service that's out there, not to undercut or hurt any other business out there, but also to make sure that that people in the city of Plattsburgh can afford such a thing. So there are a number of things that we can do to have it make sense, and the numbers I've given you are pretty straightforward. It is not a complicated process, but it really
I haven't
does.
seen any numbers.
Councilor
But
Cotton?
you want them,
I do.
and we can get them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Just a follow-up, if we were to not go get them, would we in fact be reimbursed for what we've paid out to buy them?
I couldn't speak to that. I don't know.
We need that clarification. Well, I mean, I would assume that.
These are $450,000 docks.
Yeah.
Well, and that's another point I wanted
So-
to make, is if we obviously can't leave them there forever. I mean, we're a lake community, all of us have had experience with docks. You can't just leave them there. I don't know where they are, but they could be vandalized, they could be stolen, they could whatever. But if they're $400,000 docks, this was mentioned before when we were talking about the possibility of going ahead with this, that if we couldn't work it out, we can sell them at a profit.
And they're located on a lake now, where they can be sold and relocated if we needed to. So,
Okay.
yes, there was very little risk all the way around. There still is very, very little risk all the way around. It would be a tragedy, in my opinion, because I think this is one of those, the second biggest request that we have is, where can I put my small boat? And we're the Lake City. We need to be able to do that. So I'm interested.
If I could summarize, I think where we're at right now is that the council engaged in a contract. I think we thought initially we were getting $50,000 docks or $50,000 reimbursement. Turns out that actually we're getting $85,000 docks, as we do have to get them out here for $50,000 reimbursement. I think it'd be probably wrong to call this a capital plan because we don't have a plan yet in place for what we'll do with this piece of capital. The difference it'll make for you all from a budgetary perspective is treating them one way as a transportation cost and expense is going to come in on the general fund. Treating them another way as a capital plan allows us to use bonding and eventually pay through bonding, so you can be paying over time, but again, likely from the general fund. You're gonna pay for them for that decision one way or another, I guess, to be pragmatic, as painful as it is, because, we're looking at a 6.9% tax increase. While this only represents 0.35 percentage points, it is about 1/20th of the tax increase in this item alone, but you do have a contract. I think you can pay for it one way or the other. I think Councilor Casper's perspective is correct. They are a valuable asset at some point, so it's not like you're going to lose money on this. But I think the onus is now on us to now figure out how to get them up here. And I think we should work very closely with the recreational director within his budget, hopefully even, to figure out how to do that. But ultimately, the only effect it's going to have on the budget is whether we pay it this year or whether we pay it slowly in future years. Obviously, since we have a contract and we've sent the check down, I think we're going to pay for them.
Yeah.
Does that summarize? Does anybody want to add
But how does
anything?
that resolve the issue of whether or not it will
goes
be
to the
present
capital
in the
plan.
capital plan?
I think actually, unless you have a plan for them, it doesn't
Yeah.
belong in the capital plan, because we don't have a plan for it, but we should, the onus is now on us to develop a plan, go through the public process, decide how we want to situate those docks, address the issues that you all addressed, and proceed as quickly as possible.
But
So I'm actually saying, as painful as it is, I think we need to treat it as an expense rather than a capital improvement. We may be able to back that out later once we actually have a plan around them, but at this point, we don't. We will have on the books $85,000 of value, correct? Once we transport them, so we could put them into a capital plan once we formulate a capital plan. I just think we're premature in doing that because we have no plan for them yet.
Well, there is a plan to put them on the lake in water.
Well, I mean,
Well,
and
there's obstacles to that too, isn't there?
very frankly, though, we've made many a decision about the capital plan without full clarity about how that plan
Yeah.
will be implemented, and I might add, with lots of adjustments along the way about exactly what would, be presented.
Including
So,
public input.
right, so I mean, in a way, I think we can compromise by agreeing that we need to go through the process properly with the proper amount of public input and all of those things that would help to construct a good plan, and then also commit to a placeholder, perhaps short of what you estimate, I don't know, but just to acknowledge that there is the that possibility exists, that we're going to develop this and implement it.
And I think it's part of, frankly, a larger plan for development on the lake, and goes to the LRAP, and so really there's precedent for
Destination master plan, all
pre-planning,
that.
and this fits into that pre-planning.
Yeah, but I mean, that's not to minimize your concerns about the way in which we do our process. I think that,
Well, that's
Steve-
what gets us in trouble every year is unbudgeted expenses.
But
And
I think that there was
We're
a
doing it
real
again?
difficulty. There is a real difficulty in the transitional, the transition created this difficulty.
I think that we probably have no choice but to get the darn things up here. But then I say we sit on them until we figure out what to do with them.
Absolutely.
And that may mean selling them.
Could be.
Yeah, we will decide that together.
Councilor Presser?
I'd like a motion to add the balance of what's owed for transport into the capital spending.
I already made that.
Oh, you already did, I'm sorry.
That's already on the table.
Oh,
And you seconded
okay. So
How
then
much was that
I
again?
seconded again.
75?
75.
75.
So this is a motion then to amend the capital plan to include the transportation cost to bring the docks to Plattsburgh?
Yes.
Yes.
Any further discussion?
Is that
That amount for transportation was $35,000 or $34,000, right?
Installation was also 35, right?
So why
This
wouldn't
is
it
just for the
So this is just the
transportation.
35 for the
So we
transportation,
could
not 75.
amend the amendment to 35.
To 35, yeah.
35, right.
And
That's my
Mayor Reed,
understanding.
didn't you just say that it might be better to put this into operating expenses rather than capital?
To me, I think it's a more honest approach. We could always put it into capital later if we need to, because it is part of the depreciable base of the value of that piece of capital. You can do that later, but that's your prerogative.
I would recommend that, let's see, we have a meeting 1 week from today. How about that on the agenda item as an
Well,
expense?
the motion on the table
I have
right
the
now.
motion on the table, and I think it should be
Right.
in a capital plan. And I'm willing to amend it, the amendment to 35,000 for transportation costs, but that is the resolution, the motion amendment.
Yes.
But we would need a second to amend it to 35.
You've already made, Councilor
Yeah.
Kretzer's
Oh, he did,
seconded.
okay.
Yeah.
And otherwise, we would need to go back to Richard and get a recalculation, and we get up over 7%. I mean, I know what you're trying to accomplish, Mike. I understand it, I really do, and I, in large part, agree with you that we don't want to misrepresent our budget. But in this case, I think we were caught between a rock and a hard place regarding our decision,
Yes.
before December 31st.
We put the cart before the horse.
That's right, we did do that.
Any further discussion?
Where would they be delivered to specifically? To the dock?
To the marina?
To the Wilcox dock? They
To
will?
Wilcox.
Okay, and how much room will they take? Are they gonna be stacked? Are they laid out?
We're gonna stack them, and we pick the spot, depending how many, we may have to put some in other areas, but we should have the room down there.
Okay, will they impede on the use of the dock, on Wilcox dock, come summer?
No, that's a decision.
Comes out of the planning.
Right.
and the-
We can plan about it, we're gonna do, we've had a couple of layouts made, what we're gonna do, how we're gonna lay out the docks, and you should look at those.
And I think Councilor Dowdle was saying, if for some reason this isn't resolved and they're not in the
Right,
water by
right.
the time that
Right.
that season comes, will they be in the way of use of Wilcox Dock if they're not in the
We'll try to
water?
make sure we put them where they're not in the way.
Okay.
I got a pretty big backyard.
Thank you.
It's not that far away when we think about it. Okay.
Any other questions? Prepared to vote? And this is a vote to add $35,000 to the capital plan to transport the docks from Hudson Valley to here, correct?
That's right.
Roll call.
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
No.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor Casper?
Yes.
Counselor Kretzer?
Yes.
Motion passes. We don't return to any original amendments, so the only amendment was the capital plan. Okay. Seeing no further amendments to either the capital or plan or the budget,
Mayor Reed, I think Richard has a...
Have a yard sale.
Unfortunately, John Ruff is here, he's out of the country, and he had some additions to the capital plan he had proposed to the council, I think, 3 meetings ago. And he wanted to see if they would be entertained for addition.
Can you,
Send them by courier.
I only have one copy.
are they required to
Try and make sure that they were looked at
We
tonight.
did get them. I don't have one.
Obviously, I haven't seen the council meetings, right, so.
Any more questions? No, that's capital plan projects, environmental. Oh, Peter, there's a document, we just see if I have that.
This got lost in the shuffle. I say no. Is there anyone here, is Bill Todd?
Bill's here.
Okay, not Dave, though.
It's on the town boards, but
Yeah,
Bill's here.
I see Bill. You know, when I just,
With maps.
can you speak to any of these, please? Can you speak to any of these projects?
Bill's at the water.
Yeah, okay.
Bill.
They're all for
I'll move those.
the, okay. Never mind, thank you, Bill.
I'm guessing that's the spillway repairs.
Maybe she'd have to read them individually.
Okay, so I move, can I bundle these? I move that we add these capital plan modifications from environmental services, the water pollution control plant, structural plant improvements. Do I have to read all of these?
I'm afraid I think you need to read them into the record because
Okay.
there's nothing to, no documents.
Okay, plant improvements, structural, $250,000 for primary clarifier rehabilitation. Aeration system design, $25,000 in 2019. Why would that be added to the 2017 capital plan?
That's the set of changes he said he had discussed with his liaison or maybe some other counselors.
Oh, really?
Well, what I'm seeing here is the plant improvement design is for 2017 for the, if you guys don't object, I'm just going to make the modifications that are relevant to
Right.
2017.
Okay, and now it's dawning on me that this was sent out, and we discussed it. Mayor Reed, even after the first of the year, asked John to clarify certain things, and so I'm getting a grip here.
Okay. So the plant improvements, $250,000 for the primary clarifier for 2017, $250,000 for the primary clarifier rehabilitation. And then, I see, yeah. Belt filter press repairs, $50,000 in 2017 for design. I'm not going to worry about the 2020. And so he is moving into design later this year. Disinfection system improvements, $50,000 for evaluation and design. Contact tank, that's reducing 2017 to 0. So he's put a hold on that. Richard, I'm just going to circle the ones that we're doing for the 2017 capital plan.
The other schedule that I gave you shows the page for the capital expenditure plan and highlighted areas where John is making, requesting for modifications be made. I don't know if you have that one.
This one?
Yeah, the mayor does.
Oh, that one.
I think on later pages, reducing spending to 0 on certain.
Yes, he's reducing to 0 the contact tank. That's the one that we have for 2017.
There's no way to run a city.
And then, because these are modifications, the water filtration plant, I&C valves, that's reduced to 0. So we've got 2 reductions to 0. And then water source of supply, Mead Dam improvement construction, $75,000 in 2017 for anticipated design. Westbrook 1 and 2 improvement construction, add $50,000 for anticipated design. Okay, so I marked those. So you can add those to the capital plan.
And the source of these funds would be the water fund?
The water capital reserve, which is fairly low, but the water operating funds, yes. And actually, when it comes to the dams, it would come out of the infrastructure charges that are being charged monthly on water.
IICs, yep.
Got it.
So you've moved, we need somebody to second.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Councilor Armstrong. Discussion. Councilor Kelly.
Would it be okay if we vote on these separately? Some of them make a lot of sense, it come from healthy funds, and some of them do not. Just the 2017 ones, Becky.
Yeah, the 2017 ones were the only ones I read out. I let the other ones
The
go.
19 and 20.
The 19s and 20s go. I mean, if that's what you want to do.
But clarify the funds they come from. I mean, I don't think any of them come from the general fund.
Correct.
But if these are modifications, then I don't know how it would appear on here. All
But
right,
to
let
say
me-
the fund on the right-hand side.
They don't come from the general.
Okay, INC, let me
As
see.
far as I'm concerned, is that we don't-
Plant improvement, that's coming from sewer reserve, 250,000.
Solidified.
Hold on a sec, Mike's listening, please.
Mike, the plant improvement is, the 250,000 is coming from sewer reserve.
And the sewer reserve is a healthy fund, Mr. Mark?
Approximately 2.7 million right now in
Oh.
the capital reserve for the sewer fund.
Okay.
Everything that I read from you, from the water pollution control plant, all is sewer. So that is plant improvement, aeration design, belt filter press repairs, disinfection system, contact tank. Those are all. So if you want to vote on those as a batch, because those are all coming from sewer.
And these are only 2017.
Those are only the 2017
What's the
items.
total for each of them?
It's 450,000 on that page, isn't it? Something like that.
250 for the plant improvement, 25, no, excuse me, not the aeration. 50,000 for belt filter, 50,000 for disinfection, and that's it, because we have a reduction on the contact tank to 0.
So 350 out of approximately $2 million, is
Yes.
that right?
2.7.
Oh,
2.7.
Then the next
That's
items you're
bond.
looking at on the last page there, Councilor Casper.
but that's bond.
Okay, so then, wait a minute, INC valves. No.
It's bonding, right?
INC valves
Oh,
are reduced to
no.
0. Mike? INC valves are reduced to 0, so there's no impact there. And
Okay.
then the water source of supply, the Mead Dam and Westbrook 1 and 2 are coming from water bonds.
That was $50,000 each for
No, 75 and 50.
75 for Mead 1,
So that's,
50 for Mead 2?
no.
Other way around?
75 for Mead, and then Westbrook 1 and 2 are
Oh,
50,000.
okay.
And those are water bonds, not reserved.
50 each or 50 total?
No, 75 for Mead,
Not bonded?
and
50
then
for
Westbrook
both.
1 and 2, 50.
50
For both.
for both.
Water
So the
bond.
clarification on that is, if there is sufficient funds in the infrastructure money that's been collected to pay for those directly.
It'll come from there.
It will come from there. If there's not, then it'll be
We'll-
bonded.
we'll water
And
bond.
the infrastructure funds that are collected each month provide the funding for the bond.
Okay.
So basically, it come out of the infrastructure trust.
Okay.
So is that sufficient to vote as a whole?
I think so.
Any further discussion?
Oh, you were the one that wanted to vote them separately, so. what do
I
you
know,
think?
but that's what I'm
Oh.
asking. After reading that out, is it okay if we just vote
Yes,
as a whole?
the Mead Dam or the 2 dams or 4 dams as a group, and then the water pollution control plant as a group, is that
I was
right?
gonna say the whole thing. I mean, unless you were looking for, okay, that's fine. Let's do the water pollution control and water filtration.
So moved.
We've still got a
Second.
motion on the table. Would-
Oh,
It's getting late.
yeah.
Is the motion on the table for all, to accept
It
all of
was
them?
collectively, wasn't it?
Okay.
You can just amend the motion.
You want to amend your motion, have
I will
Councilor
amend the
Kretzer
motion
accept it?
so that we are voting on the water pollution control plant and the water filtration plant
Okay.
projects.
Seconded.
Second by Councilor Kretzer. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor Casper?
Yes.
Counselor Kretzer?
Yes.
Okay, and then a motion, I guess I've already amended it. I'll amend the motion to vote on the water source of supply, Mead Dam 75,000, Westbrook 1 and 2 for 50,000 as a total. And that would come from water reserve or water bonds, depending on how much money is available there.
Right.
Second.
Second.
Councilor Armstrong.
Okay.
Further discussion, Councilor Kelly.
I see you smirking over there, Becky. And
No,
that's
no.
cool, you can do
No,
that.
Mike,
But-
let me just
but
say,
the-
I'm laughing because I'm trying to work my way through something that I'm not familiar with, and I'm trying to make it as clear as possible. I'm not laughing at you or your insistence on separating it,
This-
but I'm trying to work my way through this in the best possible way for us.
This is an exercise that we as a council should be doing on every vote. every expenditure, every vote. How much is in the fund we're taking it from? Was it budgeted? And how much is left?
That's a good idea.
Every expense.
That's perfectly fine.
From now till December 31, that's what we should be doing.
Perfectly fine with me.
Yeah, and thank you for doing that. I should probably have done this, but.
And as a matter of fact, at some point, I'm going to propose that we make that a part of our meetings. If you're going to present a spending resolution to us, you give us the fund that it's coming from, the amount you're spending, how much is in that fund, and how much is left when we're done. And then we have a very clear picture of how much we're spending, how much of the taxpayers' money we're devoting to various activities in the city here.
And if I could interject, I think we will strive for that better level of budgetary reporting so you can actually, as the year progresses, see how your funds are being depleted and how you are on course based on your budget at all times. And we, Chamberlain, Marks and I have discussed adding a module to Munis that will give you that better financial reporting. So I'm confident we can do this upcoming year.
Me too.
We've got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, roll call, please.
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor Casper?
Yes.
Counselor Kretzer?
Yes.
Any other amendments to the budget or the capital plan?
I have an amendment, under building improvements for public works, capital plan was $20,000 submitted, and we wanted $50,000. And I thought I had other funding from a 2015 capital project, but when I talked to Mr. Marks, the money was spent on other areas. So I need to have that in 20,000 increase to 50,000. It's on the building improvements, you'll see it, I don't have the sheets with me. And that's because we need to work on the fire system, some go for maintain the building out there. I think it's section 8 or 8 at the bottom.
No, that's just water.
Still your budget counselors, would one of you like to amend the capital plan?
I'll offer a motion to amend it to increase it out, what?
30,000.
30,000. I don't have that. Do you have that with you?
I've got the mayor's capital expenditure plan. I'm not sure where I see that 20,000 being paid in there. Isn't that the public service building?
Yeah.
Because I only see one for 175,000 at the fire station number 2 truck bay addition.
Right.
Kevin, I'm sorry, am I reading the wrong form?
If I may, ma'am?
Please.
I do have
So as per the discussion and direction and the charter, we went back to the mayor's capital plan from October. And then on just last week, I think it was the 5th, I sent out all of a capital plan that everyone should have received that showed, highlighted all of the changes that have been discussed through the budget hearings over the course of the fall and up until now, including all of the things from John that you just listed, the Wilcox dock, 75,000, Mike's 50,000, all of the AC pipe in the Lake Country Village in areas that were discussed at length. All of those things are listed in a single document with the changes between the mayor's capital plan and the capital.
Highlighted in yellow.
Yeah, highlighted in yellow.
Okay.
So I can, I don't have hard copies with me. I can run down and grab some if you'd like to see it, and perhaps if you want to pursue this and I can address all of those or postpone that till a later time, whatever you want to do. But that document is available that identifies the difference between the original mayor's capital plan and everything that's been discussed since then.
But can you speak directly to the question that Mike has, that the
Yes.
$30,000 was removed?
We're talking about the building?
Yeah, Mike was under the impression that there was 20,000 in public service buildings. There was not, but he wanted to increase it from 20 to 50.
But I see zero in there, there's only
Right, the
165,000.
mayor's budget, I don't have it in front of me, I thought the mayor's budget had 20, and it was supposed to be 50.
Right.
Can I ask you a question that might help resolve this for y'all? You need to calculate the tax warrant, Mr. Marks, by tomorrow. Could they pass a capital budget tomorrow without requiring the level of calculations you'll need to do for the tax warrant? Because they are.
Yeah, I just need the total number for it to be in the budget resolution that's presented for adoption.
And so it doesn't require the same sort of calculations and due diligence for you to calculate the actual tax cap, because these are capital funds, not general funds. Is that correct?
The capital expenditure total plan, total spending plan is a number that's quoted in the budget resolution that has to be adopted tomorrow.
So if they did some due diligence tomorrow night and then gave you that number, could you then immediately incorporate it into your calculation?
Yep.
So that'd be one. I'm just fearful that the councils haven't had a chance to thoroughly look at these numbers. So perhaps if you could look at them over the next 24 hours, include that in your discussion before you pass the final tax number tomorrow night. And meantime, Mr. Marks has the information necessary to calculate the actual final tax levy, if this is all correct.
Yeah, the only number I'll be lacking for the budget resolution is the total capital spending plan.
I withdraw my motion for the amendment.
Is that a fair resolution, and everybody content with that?
Yeah.
Any further items for the capital budget or the capital plan or the budget? Seeing none, are there any resolutions for initial consideration? Is there any new business? At this time in the meeting, I'm sorry, Councilor Kelly?
Just have one piece of new business, if Mr. Marks is willing to indulge me. Mr. Marks talked to us last Friday at a meeting of department heads about how we got into this financial shape, and we all have our theories about it, and most of them are wrong. It started a long time ago, and he also sent us an email today very clearly spelling that out. And I was just going to ask you, for the public, would you please tell us what those 4 or 5 events that have happened since the 1990s, I think it was.
It was basically just 2 events.
You might want to get in front of the microphone, because if you could, thank you.
Little budget history lesson.
Right.
It's just two very simple events happened that revenue items were included in the general fund that would be considered as permanent revenue, and they weren't. One had a limited life of 15 years. That was the cogeneration plant revenue of $850,000 a year. That agreement ended in 2009, and the cogeneration plant doesn't have any plans of revamping the plant and continuing its production. So we lost $757,000 of general fund revenue that expenditures were based on. That's a big number. And then in the early 2000s, general fund budget balancing was accomplished by increasing contributions from the water and the sewer funds. And New York State looked at those and said that those were unacceptable and unsupportable. And so the $1,280,000 a year that was being transferred to the general fund to balance the budget had to be reduced by $800,000. Once again, it was an unsustainable, unsupportable revenue item. So that $1.5 million is a problem that we've been having since 2009, and it hasn't been resolved. And obviously, it's tough to reduce your expenditures by $1.5 million or increase your taxes by that much, because those are unpopular items. Taxpayers don't want an increase. And reducing general fund costs, unfortunately, comes to headcount, because 74% of the costs in the general fund are personnel related. So in a nutshell, $1.5 million
problem has been in existence since 2009, and the only resolution to it was to try and reduce spending as much as we could along those lines and use the general fund to balance the budget each year from the reserve. Now that the reserve is gone, have to tackle the real problem. And that's that structural imbalance in revenues versus expenditures, and that's basically where it's come from. There's a lot of other small items, bigger items, up, down, whatever, but those two are the problem. So, you know, the lesson to be learned is to not include something in the general fund revenues that's not gonna be sustainable. It's gotta be a permanent revenue item if we're gonna include it and base expenditures on it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Richard.
You're welcome.
Any additional questions? Seeing none, at this part of the meeting, we'll entertain any closing comments from the public on any issue whatsoever, please. Well, related to the city of Plattsburgh, presumably.
Carol Pepper again, sorry to do this, it's not related to what you think I'm gonna talk about. You're giving me the benefit, trying to work on 15 counts. I have a real concern. I've attended, I can't tell you how many common council meetings where there's always an issue of spending at one point, passing some type of spending approval for an event or a department or whatever. As you know, I run several properties, and as somebody that owns revenue property or a business, I used to own retail, you have to work in your budget a reserve. And I don't hear, what I hear and what I have a concern about is that I don't know, I haven't been involved in the work sessions of finding out how many, every time you have an expense, how much you spend on time to put it out to bid, to get the estimates, to find the most cost-effective way. Listening the process with the dock situation, I have a concern. I asked the council, what are the conditions that you're going to get reimbursed for the money that you've already put out? I have a very much a concern. I'm glad that Mike Kelly brought up all his concerns about why didn't you have a plan in place. This is just one issue, but it happens over and over and again. And we've added, since the beginning of the meeting, 300,000, I don't know, I lost count of how much more we added to our capital fund where the taxpayers are now having to burden probably 8% tax. I don't know, you're gonna do the math, but it's probably closer to 8% now,
No. That's separate,
Okay.
the capital plan.
Okay, and it's my lack of knowledge about how the city works. But we have some maintenance issues in the city, one of which I brought up several times, the city engineer knows. We have a focal point, historic Lake Champlain Monument. The water has receded, has eroded the stairs, and I don't know that now with the budget constraints that we'll have any money in the budget to prevent that from further eroding and properly taking care of that. We talk about attracting tourists and everything for the small boats, but I will tell you as somebody that walks that area quite a bit, people that visit Plattsburgh, the first area they go to is City Hall, the McDonough Monument, and Champlain Monument. That Kent Delord House, we promote the walking trail, the river trail. We promote the museum corridor. We're trying to get that, up and running. And so I asked the council, where is that in the budget? I have a concern that it's going to get further eroded and there's going to be brickbat and it's going to turn out to be a mess and one of our jewels is not going to be there. You're not going to answer because I know it's not question answer, but I do ask the council to look into that. The other question I have for the council is that we spent a lot of money in infrastructure to build up an area to have a hotel in the downtown corridor, and that's right adjacent to the sewage treatment plant. It sits foul. It's beautiful. We spend a lot of money. You talk about a hotel at the airport. I asked when I met with the downtown revitalization group, what are the plans to try to use something that's already existing? We already have electric, we already have the pavement, we already have all that. I asked the council, what's happening with that? The other concern I have is we're getting rid of the parking enforcement officer. I understand that, maybe the revenue isn't supporting that position, but time and time again, over the past 5, 6, maybe 7 years, Instead of, when we transitioned out of having a parking enforcement officer, it was supposed to be, I'm sorry, I don't know for sure, Joe, but is Joe? No, you are there. At one point, the building inspector, I think, you know, certain areas, they were able to ticket, and at night, the police were supposed to ticket. That's revenue. How much revenue have we generated in 2016 by enforcing that? Every other city gets revenue from that, and although it might be inconsequential, it's still revenue. So if we're not gonna have a parking enforcement officer, then it should go back to the police after 4 o'clock to enforce and ticket. And when I call them, because I live in the downtown corridor, they don't want a ticket. They don't ticket, and that's loss of revenue. You know, so those are concerns. And, you know, I do have a concern about increased pollution in Lake Champlain. It's the only jewel we have, and we need to look at that study and see what we can do if we're going to develop and encourage more boats to come. Then Lake George and some other areas that already are suffering from pollution because of increased tourism due to boats have put into place some safety measures. We need to look at that and do that before we can have more problems, not after we see that that's increasing. So when you're doing a plan, I ask that the city look at that. It won't take much to have some more enforcement. We put something down at the Wilcox docks to have the boats cleaned, so I don't know why we can't, you know, do something with that. So I'm sorry to always be the one to voice my concerns, but I don't see that we're learning enough from some of our mistakes, and I ask the council to really look at maybe doing something with the code about selling maybe the street sweeping machine, even though Mike Kelly, I hate to rain on your parade, but I really think that we need to look at putting some measures in our zoning code to, I hate to say it, but have residents more responsible about taking responsibility for cleaning up their front yard, the sidewalks, the street, so that we as residents will work together about cutting down some costs too. But thank you, I appreciate all that you've done, and I know it's a hard nut to crack, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carol.
Well, Carol, I think actually the city is listening. Through the DRI, the new Downtown Revitalization Initiative efforts, a number of those things are going to be attended to. One, I hope and I believe they're going to allow the city to fund a comprehensive land use plan, which also includes revision of zoning and ordinances and all these sorts of things that deal with some of the issues that are important to you. Second, they've also identified as a priority doing something with mitigation on the sewage treatment plant and odor control, perhaps hiding it. There's even been talk of vertical hiding, a roof of some sort. So I think that may get attention so we can start using that property more effectively as well. And also the city's received a grant for $20,000 to do a parking study that will allow us to decide what's the best way to enforce parking downtown. So I hope that over the next 6 months or a year, I think we can address many of those concerns.
And can we also touch upon the stair repair at the Champlain Monument?
Sure.
That's being addressed.
It's
in the budget.
It's important.
No, it's in there. It's
treasure of ours.
it's being, it's in the plan.
It is in the capital plan.
There's been money designated, so yes, that's.
I wanted to say one other thing relating to the downtown revitalization.
Sorry.
I've spoken to the committee, and I've gone to other cities, and we have that parking area is something that we use quite a bit. And they said that it's too cost prohibitive for underground parking. And I know that, you know, there were a couple other buildings built with underground parking. Let me assume that that's the case. I have seen other developments in downtown corridors where they have the first level of parking and they have mixed use. So they'll have some area, maybe the market, as I mentioned to them, maybe the city market would be enclosed so that they could have a year-round city market, and then have some parking adjacent to that. But I have a concern that parking that we as downtown people and people that have apartments there, that will be lost. And the last comment that I made to downtown revitalization was that we know the warehouses that are adjacent to J Street, and we know that Louis owns those, But it would be nice to see that maybe the city get involved with the Bouilliers or the owners of those warehouses to do cooperatives. Other cities have converted warehouses now, not only mixed use of residential, but also places where people can buy a certain amount of space and have their wares. You know, I think that would be a good fit for those.
Certainly.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your ideas. Any other public comments? Seeing none, may I have a motion to adjourn? I'm sorry. Second time I did that. I'm sorry.
John Good, I live on Club Road, Plattsburgh also. Let me just speak just quickly to the marine issue. I believe when you guys first did the main marina, that was sold as that was going to be for the people of the city to use. That's my understanding.
Well, it's complicated.
Well, that's the way I understood.
Yeah.
And I live in the city, I rent a dock, and I think the gentleman spoke about these new slips are 28 feet. Even at the boat basin, those docks, most of them are 24 feet or under. So you're not talking about small boats that are going to use these spots.
You mean for the new ones?
Yes.
No, the new set of docks would be for 26 feet or under.
Okay, so at the boat basin, 24 is the norm for most of them. At the boat basin, Plattsburgh
No,
boat.
it's 26 and up at the marina.
No, I'm talking about the boat basin.
The boat basin, okay, sorry.
So you're not talking about small boats.
Yeah,
You're not.
right.
And the next issue is you guys just got filed with a lawsuit for the first marina you cited. And you're jumping into another one without a plan. And I appreciate your efforts, but I think you're spot on.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Any further comments? Seeing none this time, I have a motion to adjourn. Motion by Councilor Armstrong, second by Councilor Kelly. Roll call, please.
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Renzel?
Yes.
Counselor Casper?
Yes.
Counselor Creighton?
Yes.
Motion, meeting adjourned at 7:20. Thank you.
God, oh my.
Wow, what a meeting. That was great. Mr. Good. Hi. Thanks for coming.
I've met you before. I've been to a couple.
See you there.
I'm a big advocate of police and fire. I know we need those things. I know there's a things that keep us all safe.